everyone, I'm Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this Shamrock collar. It's perfect for dogs, for cats, and most any pets. It's in 3 sizes. We have a small, a medium, and a large. The small fits about a 6 to 9 inch neck. The medium fits about a 10 to 13 inch neck, and the large will fit a 14 to 17 inch neck. And the reason we have that wiggle room in there is because we attach 2 D-rings, which gives us a little bit of room to adjust that size because we use a tab. I'll give you all of that as we go along, but you can also find this crochet pattern on my blog, and as always, that blog link is down in the notes underneath this video. Now, although we're doing this collar in greens and orange for St. Patrick's Day, this collar can be made in any colors that you want to, and you can use any applique that you want to. You could make it in purple, pinks, and yellows for spring. Maybe add a spring flower or a chick. You could do Christmas colors. You could do fall colors. Any colors that you want to. You can do variegated, stripes, whatever you want to do. I'm just choosing today to do it with St. Patrick's Day colors. This one I did in the darker green and with a light green shamrock. I'm going to do the opposite today. I'm going to use this light green for the body of my collar. I'm going to make my shamrock in this darker green, and then of course I'm going to trim with orange. It takes a very small amount, not even an ounce to an ounce and a half, depending on what size you're going to make. This is all Red Heart Super Saver medium weight number 4 yarns. And also keep in mind, you can make it out of any medium weight number 4 yarn you want to. One thing to keep in mind when you're making something for pets, you want to be able to wash it in the wash machine. So make sure it's something that's not going to felt like wool. You want something that's going to do well in the wash machine. And that's why I like to use acrylic yarns. You're going to need 2 D-rings, and these are 1-inch D-rings. You can go to a 3/4 inch if you can't find the 1 inch. Now, I like the 1 inch for this project, and I bought these at Hobby Lobby. They're $2.99, and you get 6 D-rings. So you can make 3 collars with 1 package. You can find those over by the sewing department in any of your craft stores. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You need a needle for weaving in your ends and attaching your clover and your D-rings. And then of course you're going to need a pair of scissors. We're going to begin with our slip knot. And if you're making the small size, which is the 6 to 9 inch neck, you're going to need to chain 51 chains. If you're making the medium size, you're going to need to chain 61 chains. And if you're making the large, you're going to need to chain 71 chains. I'm making the small because, of course, my dogs are small, so I'm going to chain 51 chains. And remember, don't chain your chain too tightly. You don't want it puckered up. All right, so I'm making this small, so I'm chaining 51 chains. We're going to begin by stitching a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And now we're going to stitch. If you're making the small, you're going to need to stitch 19 more single crochets. If you're making the medium, you're going to need to stitch 24 single crochets. And if you're making the large, you need to chain an additional 38 chains. I am making the small, so I'm going to stitch 19 more single crochets. Now we're going to stitch 3 single crochets in the next stitch, and this is the same for all 3 sizes. So 3 single crochets in the next chain stitch. So 1, 2, and 3. And that's going to be the point of our collar. And now we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets across this row. And you'll notice that this side is longer than the other side because this is the side where we're making the tab for our D-rings as well. And so we'll finish off row 1 by stitching 1 single crochet in each of the remaining chains across. I completed stitching my single crochets, and again you'll notice one side is longer than the other because we're forming the tab for our D-rings on this side. Alright, so now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to single crochet in each single crochet until we reach that center single crochet where we place those 3 single crochets in the same stitch. So I'm just going to single crochet back down this row till I reach that center single crochet where I stitch those 3 single crochets. I have single crocheted down. I'm to the center where those 3 single crochets are stitched in the same stitch. So we're going to single crochet in that first one, and then in the center one of those 3 we're going to stitch 3 single crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll single crochet in that next one, and then we'll single crochet up this other side. So I've completed that second row, single crochet all the way down, 3 single crochets in the center of those 3, and then single crochet in each stitch all the way back up, chain 1 and turn. And now what we're going to do is we're going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch across, 3 in that center, and then we're not going to go all the way up because this edge is going to be the tab. All right, but I'll explain that to you once we get past the point. All right, so, and on this project, the chain 1 does not count as a stitch. I don't know if I clarified that earlier, but it does not. We begin in the very first single crochet, and we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets until we reach that center of those 3. We'll stitch 3 there and then work our way up. So 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets till we reach that point. I have single crocheted 1 stitch in each all the way up till I've reached those 3 single crochets. I'll single crochet in the first one. Then in that center one we'll place 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Now on this side, which is the long side, we're not going to crochet all the way up this time. We're going to stitch only a certain number. If you're stitching the small size, you're going to stitch in the next 22 only. If you're stitching the medium size, you're going to stitch in the next 26 only. If you're stitching the large, you're going to stitch only in the next 40. And that's going to leave a small amount of stitches here to be used as our tab that we'll use with our D-rings. I'm stitching the small size, so I'm going to stitch 1 single crochet in the next 22. I have stitched my 22 and I chained 1. We're going to leave these stitches unworked, and like I said, that's our tab for our D-rings. And now what we're going to do is turn, and we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each stitch, 3 in the center, 1 single crochet in each stitch, chain 1, and turn. And this is the same for all 3 sizes. The only difference is, of course, you'll have more stitches on your sides. So I chained 1, turned, stitched 1 single crochet in each single crochet down till I reached those 3 single crochets in the center. I stitched 3 in that center one, and then single crochet in each single crochet all the way back up. And that's for all 3 sizes. And again, of course, you'll have more stitches on the sides of your collar. And now what we're going to do is we're just basically going to repeat row 4 2 more times. Chain 1, turn, 1 single crochet in each single crochet till you reach that 3. Then you'll single crochet in the first one, 3 single crochets in the center, 1 single crochet in the next, and then 1 single crochet in each stitch, chain 1, turn, and repeat. So we're basically repeating row 4 2 more times. I repeated 2 rows of 1 single crochet in each single crochet, 3 in the center, 1 single crochet in each single crochet, and I repeated that for 2 more rows. Now, if you want a thicker collar, you can repeat that for more rows. If you want a thinner collar, just remember you got to have enough room to put your applique on. All right, so I'm finished with my green, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that. And I'm going to bring in my orange, which is my trim color. I'm going to chain 1, and now what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet across here, down and up, around our tab, down and all the way around our collar. All right, so we're going to begin first by single crocheting evenly across here. So we'll just start. And remember, when you're single crocheting evenly across an edge where there isn't stitches, try to put those stitches in the ends or the sides of those stitches and not in the holes. We don't want a gaping hole. Like right here, I'm going to go ahead and come up a little in that stitch, and that's going to help fill that in. Now I'm at a corner, so I'm going to place 2 single crochets in that corner. And now I'm going to single crochet in each of these stitches going all the way to that inside point of my collar. I single crocheted across to the center. I'm just going to go right in that center and place a single crochet, and then I'll just continue to work up this other side. I'll continue working up this other side till I reach the tab. So I've stitched all the way up. Here's our tab. I'm going to just place a couple stitches in the end. And then that second one in the corner. And now I'm just going to stitch down. There we go. And that brings us to this little edge here. So I'm just going to place a single crochet in that corner and then work down the side. And again, on these little edges where we don't have stitches, we want to try to work in the side of the stitch. It just looks neater, I think. All right, so here's our corner. So we'll place 2 single crochets in that corner. And now we'll just work down till we reach the point. We'll put 3 in the point like we did on the green rose, and then work back up to here. All right, so 1 single crochet in each single crochet, working down to that point, and then in that point, in the center single crochet, we'll stitch 3 single crochets, just like we did on our green rose, and then crochet single crochets back up the other side and end where we started. I continued to stitch my single crochets down. I did those 3 single crochets in that point and then single crocheted up the side, and now I'm back where I started. I want to add that second single crochet in that corner, and then I'm going to join to the first single crochet where we started. And yes, I have a few ends I need to weave in. All right, so we're going to cut our yarn. We'll go in the next stitch, pull that loop to the back. That way we can weave that in to the back of our project. All right, so now this is how it looks. And I'm going to take just a few minutes and weave these ends in. And then we're going to make that shamrock and attach it to our collar. And then we'll also add the D-rings to the collar. All right, let's make our little shamrock. I'm using a darker green, making my slip knot, and I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to place 2 double crochets in that third chain. So yarn over, go in the third chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. Now we're going to stitch another double crochet in that same chain. We're going to chain 2 and slip stitch in that same chain. So now we have 1 petal of our shamrock. We're going to chain 2, stitch 2 double crochets in that same chain. 1, 2, chain 2, slip stitch in that same chain. Now we have 2 petals, and we'll do that one more time. Chain 2, 2 double crochets in that same chain. So there's 1, 2, chain 2, and slip stitch in that same chain. Now you'll have a hole, but we'll use this end of our yarn to close that up. All right, so now we're going to form the stem. We're going to chain 4. A little more yarn out here. There we go. All right, now we're going to slip stitch in the second chain. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, pull that loop through the loop on our hook, and then we'll slip stitch in the next 2 chains. Now we'll slip stitch in that same chain that we've been working in. And now we're going to cut our yarn, but we're going to give ourselves a little bit of yarn so we can sew that onto our collar. So we'll go ahead and tie that off. We're going to turn this over, grab our needle and thread that short end where we started. And now we're going to go all the way around and close up the hole in the center of our shamrock. There we go. And we'll just give a little bit of a tug, turn it over, make sure it's closed. And then what I do is I take this, and I do that knot. I just 1 and 2, and that's because this is going to be sewn on, so I'm not worried about that. I just like the way that it looks when it's pulled to the back and it looks nice and neat. Alright, so let's take our collar, place our shamrock on there, and now we'll thread the long end of our yarn on our needle. Alright, now we're going to sew it on. So we're going to go under, come up through the center, and I like to make a stitch go this way and then come back up in the center. I'll make a stitch go this way and come back up in the center. And of course, you can sew yours on however you want to. I like to do it this way. It gives it just a little bit of a 3D effect. It's not just laying flat. Let me thread that back on my needle. There we go. And then I'll come back up in the center, and I'll make sure everything's lined up, and I'm just going to go down in, and I'm going to come back up with that petal, or that stem. We want our stem to stay put. And of course, you can make as many stitches as you want to where you feel secure that your shamrock is going to stay put. I try to do it this way because I want the least amount of stitches on the back of my collar. And now I'm just weaving this in, making sure that's going to stay put. All right. Now we have a cute little 3D shamrock on our collar. I threaded about a 12 to 14 inch yarn that matches my trim onto my needle. We're going to take the 2 D-rings and we want to attach them to the top edge of our collar. And so we're going to lay them flat together, and we're going to stitch some whip stitches. Now I'll pull that like that because I'm going to come back and use that later. And we're just going to stitch a bunch of stitches going through the edge of the collar. And what I do is I'll make about 6 or 8 going across. It will get stuck a couple of times. There we go. So now I'm up in this corner, and I want to make sure I'm going through both of those D-rings. There we go. Okay, up in that corner. And now I'm just going to work my way back down. There we go. I don't put as many stitches going back down, but I just want to make sure I've got enough that it's going to hold. All right, and so there it is. Lots of stitches in there. It looks nice and full. So we'll turn it to the back, and we'll just come down here. And we're going to tie this in a knot. And we want to make sure that it's going to be a good sturdy knot, because remember, our pets are going to be wearing this, and they're probably going to be playing and jumping and running. If they're like mine, they're just going to be laying there sleeping. All right, so I've done lots of knots, 3, 4, nice and snug, and we're just going to clip that. All right, so now our collar is finished, and you're going to put it on your dog's neck. You're going to put both of the tab through both of those rings, and you can adjust it to your dog's neck, and then you just slip it back through only the one, and that's going to keep it and make it stay put. And remember, you can make these in any colors that you want to for any holiday or occasion that you want to. And that's our Shamrock dog and cat and pet collar.